It began with a single ping, a sound so ordinary yet heavy enough to split a quiet morning in half. His screen glowed in the dark room, casting blue light over tired eyes. A video was trending. Someone crying in a bathroom stall, a caption dripping with mockery. He knew that face. He'd seen it in art class, framed with quiet eyes and trembling hands. The comments poured in like rain. Laughing emojis, cruel jokes, threats disguised as humor. His heart began to race, not from fear but fury. Every share, every like, was another stab at someone too fragile to fight back. He clicked report, but it did nothing. The numbers climbed higher, the cruelty louder. In that moment, he realized the truth. Silence online was as loud as laughter, and as he whispered to himself, "Someone has to stop this," he didn't yet know that he was about to be next. What if a single screenshot destroyed your life? He refreshed the page again, hoping the post would vanish. But instead, it grew. Every comment was sharper, every share colder. The silence of those who knew the truth was deafening. He typed a message in defense, trembling as he hit send, but it drowned instantly beneath the tide. For the first time, he saw how fast lies could run, and how slow truth could crawl. His phone buzzed non-stop. Notifications blurred together. Memes, messages, insults. They called him hero, liar, attention seeker. He didn't know which hurt more. The more he spoke, the more they twisted his words. Truth had no shape anymore. It was just noise. He went to the counselor, hoping someone would listen. But all he got was sympathy without solution. They said, "Ignore it." They said, "It'll fade." But how do you ignore something that follows you home, hides in your pocket, and wakes you in the dark? That night, he opened his phone again. The post was still there. Thousands of shares now. He stared at it until his reflection blurred. Somewhere between rage and sorrow, he whispered, "If no one stops them, I will." It was the start of something bigger than him, and darker than he imagined. By morning, his post had spread like wildfire. What began as a plea for kindness turned into a battlefield. The comments overflowed, half cheering him on, half tearing him apart. They called him fake, accused him of using tragedy for attention. Screenshots of his old posts resurfaced, twisted into weapons. He scrolled endlessly, unable to look away from the storm head spark. His hands trembled as he realized the same voices that once mocked Maya now hunted him. It wasn't just about her anymore. The internet had found a new target, and it was him. At school, whispers turned into laughter. Phones lifted whenever he walked by. The same faces that once smiled at him now hid behind smirks. Every sound, every look felt like a recording waiting to happen. He tried to keep his head down, but truth has a way of being louder than silence. He tried to message Maya, but her account was gone. Every word he typed felt useless against the silence that replaced her. He wondered if she saw what he was going through. If she blamed him for making things worse. Maybe she was right to disappear. Maybe that was the only way to survive. The messages got worse. They sent threats, memes, photos edited to shame him. Even strangers joined in. People who didn't know his face or name but loved the chaos. He wanted to fight back, but every reply made it worse. The internet didn't want truth. It wanted blood. By the end of the week, even his teachers looked at him differently. Rumors spread faster than reason. He could feel the walls closing in. School, home, online. No place left untouched. Still, somewhere inside, a spark refused to die. He whispered to himself, "If the truth can burn, then let it." Days passed, and her seat stayed empty. The school felt quieter, yet heavier, as if every whisper carried guilt. He stopped checking his phone, afraid of what he might see. The online noise faded, but what replaced it was worse. Silence, the kind that echoed. The kind that made you wonder if the world had finally gone too far. He didn't know where Maya was, or if she'd ever come back. But every night, when the screens went dark, her face still appeared behind his eyelids. Not the crying one from the video, but the one that smiled when no one was watching. At lunch, no one spoke to him. The cafeteria was full of voices, laughter, phones flashing, but he was invisible. He stared at his tray, untouched. The smell of food turned his stomach. He overheard his name again and again like a ghost haunting its own story. He tried to remember the last time he laughed, but all he could recall was the sound of a notification. That first one, the one that started it all. That evening, he scrolled through old messages, ones from before the chaos. Maya's words felt like echoes from another life. Don't let them win. He stared at them until they blurred, trying to hear her voice in the silence. For the first time, he realized what she meant, that surviving online wasn't about being loud. It was about refusing to disappear. Rumors began again, whispers of why she vanished, what he might have done. Lies found their way back into the light, wearing new masks. He wanted to shout, to tell the truth, but no one would listen. The more he spoke, the deeper the silence became. It wasn't that people didn't hear, it was that they didn't care. That night he opened his laptop again. The world had forgotten, moved on to its next victim, its next storm. But not him. He searched for her name. Nothing. No trace left, as if she never existed. He stared into the blank search bar, realizing the cruelest truth of all. The internet never forgets what it destroys, only who it destroys. He couldn't sleep anymore. Every night, his mind replayed the cruelty, not just the laughter, but the silence that followed. Then one evening, while scrolling through an old thread, he found it. A clue. Hidden between comments and emojis was a file link. It led to a private chat log, proof of who started everything. The names, the screenshots, the plans. For the first time, he saw it clearly. The faces behind the hate. His hands trembled, not from fear this time, but purpose. The truth was right there, and he knew what he had to do. He read every word. They laughed about it. The post, the video, even the aftermath. They called it a game. He scrolled further, and there it was. The one who started it all. Jordan, the golden boy. The one everyone believed could do no wrong. His stomach twisted, anger flooding every corner of his chest. He took screenshots of everything, each click feeling like a heartbeat. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of them. The next morning, he printed everything. Dozens of pages. Conversations, usernames, timestamps. He walked through the school halls, the papers clutched like evidence from a crime scene. Every step felt heavier, but he didn't stop. This was the moment he thought justice might finally exist. But when he reached the office, something inside him warned. The truth doesn't always save you. Sometimes it just paints a bigger target. He laid the papers on the principal's desk. Words poured out about Maya, the posts, the threats, the proof. The room fell silent. Mrs. Lyle stood behind him, her hand trembling on his shoulder. For a moment, he believed it might finally end. But the principal only sighed, glancing at the clock before saying, "Well, handle it." That was the phrase everyone used when they didn't plan to do anything. That night, he stared at the screen one last time. The truth sat on his desktop, ready to be posted. He knew once it went out, there was no going back. Maybe they'd hate him more. Maybe they'd finally see. He whispered to the empty room, "Let them see." Then he hit upload. The loading bar crawled forward, slow and steady, like a heartbeat counting down to something irreversible. It happened faster than he expected. Within an hour, his post spread everywhere. People shared it, tagged it, argued over it. The screenshots he posted became headlines, the truth twisted into another form of entertainment. Some called him brave, others called him a liar. He wanted justice. But all he saw was chaos. The same fire, only bigger. His notifications became endless. His name was trending. He sat frozen, staring at the storm, head unleashed, realizing that online, even the truth burns. At first, he thought people understood. Some commented words like finally and justice. But then came the edits, the memes, the twisted captions. They took his screenshots, cropped his face into jokes. He became the very thing he was fighting against. Another viral sensation. He scrolled in disbelief, his name tangled with hate and laughter, realizing that truth online wasn't sacred. It was content. The school exploded with attention. Reporters waited at the gate. Cameras flashed when he arrived. Everyone wanted his side of the story, but no one wanted to listen. They just wanted quotes, reactions, headlines. Even teachers avoided his eyes now. He wasn't Ethan anymore. He was a story, a trend, a cautionary tale wrapped in pixels. That evening, he saw a post that made his blood run cold. Someone had uploaded his address. The comments followed. Threats, jokes, dares. He turned off his phone, locked the door, and sat in darkness. He had tried to expose monsters, but the crowd had created new ones. He whispered to the silence, was it worth it? But even silence didn't answer anymore. The next morning, his video reached 1 million views, but all he felt was empty. Maya still hadn't returned. The world had moved on to new scandals, new victims. He thought exposing the truth would save her, maybe even him. Instead, it showed him how quickly people turn pain into a show. He shut his laptop, whispering, they don't want truth. They want noise. And in that moment, he knew the storm he started would never end. It would just find new names to consume. The world outside went quiet, but inside, everything was falling apart. His parents stopped talking to reporters, stopped answering calls. Teachers avoided his name in class. Even his friends had vanished. He thought telling the truth would make things right, but it only made him a target. His inbox was still full of hate, but now it didn't even hurt. He'd gone numb. Somewhere between anger and exhaustion, he realized something terrible. The internet doesn't destroy you all at once. It erases you piece by piece. At school, things grew worse. His locker was vandalized, covered in slurs, stickers, and laughing faces. No one saw who did it. No one wanted to. He stood there for minutes, just staring, the noise of the hallway fading away. Then he took a deep breath, wiped away what he could, and walked off without a word. The hardest part wasn't what they wrote. It was knowing that no one stopped them. He stopped going to the cafeteria, stopped speaking in class. Days blurred together. The laughter outside his window became distant noise. One night he went through old photos, pictures of him and Maya smiling at a school event. Before everything changed, he stared at that image for hours, remembering what peace felt like, wondering if it would ever come back. Then one morning he saw it. A new post. Maya's name trending again. His chest tightened as he opened it. It wasn't another rumor. It was a memorial page. Someone had found her. She was gone. The screen blurred through his tears. He couldn't breathe. Everything he'd fought for, every word he'd spoken, all of it felt meaningless. The silence he'd been running from had finally won. He didn't speak for days. The world outside went on. New trends, new news, new laughter. But his world had stopped. He sat in her empty seat at school, eyes fixed on the window she used to draw beside. He remembered her voice saying, "Don't let them win." For the first time, he understood. It wasn't about fighting them. It was about not becoming like them. He looked at the sky, whispering, "I won't disappear." Weeks passed. The noise faded. The hashtags vanished. But the scars remained. Quiet, invisible, constant. He barely went online anymore. The internet felt like a graveyard of voices, each one shouting for attention. none meaning a thing. Sometimes he'd scroll through old messages just to feel something again. Other times he'd stare at the blank screen and wonder if anyone truly listens when it's no longer trending. The truth had cost him everything: his peace, his friends, his hope. But even broken, he still had one thing left: his voice. That night, he recorded a message. No script, no filters, no edits. Just his voice and truth. He talked about Maya, about the hate, about what it means to stand up when everyone else stays quiet. He didn't ask for sympathy. He asked for silence, the kind that listens. When he finished, he stared at the recording, unsure if the world deserved to hear it. But he pressed upload anyway. Not for them, but for her. The next morning, the video had a few thousand views. Nothing viral, nothing trending. But the comments were different this time. They weren't cruel or mocking. They were quiet, honest, human. People shared their own stories, their own scars. For the first time in months, he smiled. Maybe this was how change really happened. Not through shouting, but through listening. He walked to the park where they used to sit after school. The air was cold, still carrying the smell of rain. He stood by the bench and placed a folded paper on it. One of Maya's drawings had kept safe, a small bird breaking free. He looked up at the gray sky and whispered, "You were right. They didn't win." For the first time in a long while, the silence felt kind. Later that night, his video reached 10,000 views. Still small compared to the storm before, but it didn't matter. For once, the comments were silent, as if the world finally paused to feel. He closed his laptop and sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the night. One notification blinked on his screen. A message from an unknown user. "Thank you. You saved me." His lips parted, eyes closing. Maybe that was enough. Maybe saving one person was worth all the noise. How loud can silence feel when the whole world is laughing at you?